These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. There's a 1 in 3 chance police will never identify your killer if you were murdered in the United States. If the sun exploded now, you wouldn't know about it for another 8 minutes. 20% of children report hearing voices. There are 40 supervolcanoes around the world, capable of claiming 1 billion lives. And we are about 24,000 years overdue for an eruption. The air you breathe in train stations is 15% human skin. There are over 200 dead bodies on top of Mount Everest, because retrieving them is such a risk. They serve as markers for other hikers. When you die, your house cat is going to want to eat you. Speaking of pets, dogs like squeaky toys because they mimic the screams of their prey. Yeah, there's a lot more. Like for part 2. These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. The pacu fish from South America has human-like teeth. There's a haunted Russian radio station. It's a low-frequency radio station that's been broadcasting since 1982. And no one knows where the broadcast is originating. When you die, your hearing is the last sense you lose. Speaking of death, finally, the death outnumber the living, 15 to 1. You swallow 1 to 2 cups of mucus every day. Pine trees can grow in human lungs. A man once went into surgery to remove what doctors thought was a tumor, but it was a pine tree growing in his lungs. There was a chicken called Mike the Headless Chicken. He lived for 18 months after its head was cut off. In 1800s, dentures were made out of the real teeth of deceased people. Yeah, with 1 dentist visit, you would have been eating with a dead man's teeth for the rest of your life. Like for part 3. These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. Being buried alive accidentally occurred so often that people invented safety coffins. In the Middle Ages, people used to eat mummies for medical purposes. It's the main reason we don't have a lot of mummies left today. In the United States, there are more vacant homes than homeless people. Did you know that the actress Glenn Close was raised in a cult? The Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland used to have real skeletons as props. In 1976, a TV crew realized one of the hanging bodies in the Laugh in the Dark ride was indeed a real body by accidentally breaking it. Women in the 18th century used lead as makeup. This is the first chainsaw. It was invented by 2 Scottish doctors. And it was invented for childbirth. Yeah, there's a lot more. Like for part 4. These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. If given access to it, butterflies will happily drink blood. Astronauts must drink 730 liters of recycled sweat and urine to live in space for a year. The hospital bed you were once in had many dead people laying on it. Speaking of death, 153,000 people die every day. You're not scared of being alone. You're scared of not being alone when you're supposed to be. After 10 minutes of watching yourself in a mirror, your brain gets bored and distorts your reflection, causing imaginary monsters such as Bloody Mary. Eventually, there will be more dead people on Facebook than alive. More than 7,000 people die every year due to the doctor's bad handwriting. Yeah, there's a lot more. Like for part 5. These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. In ancient Rome, soldiers used to drink fresh warm blood to cure epilepsy. There are antidepressants that eliminate someone's ability to feel love and compassion. The Exorcist movie resulted in many of its cast dying, including 2 actors whose characters died in the movie. In 2017, an asteroid named AG-13 passed by our home planet with less than the distance of the moon. Scientists saw it coming only 2 days before it could have hit Earth. One of the most haunted dolls is Robert. It belonged to a child named Eugene in 1904. The 2 most dangerous books are called Shams al-Ma'arif and Al-Ghazali. They carry rituals for summoning demons. In ancient England, people used tops of hollowed human skulls to drink and eat. At Harvard University, there's a book bound in human skin, like for part 6. These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. Horror movies use tracks that include infrasounds. They cannot be heard by human ears, but they are known to induce anxiety and heart palpitations. 44% of the information shared on worldwide news is inaccurate. To date, the US lost 6 nuclear bombs and never recovered them. According to paranormal experts, when you have a nightmare, real spirits or demons are trying to contact you, but your body rejects them and wakes you up for safety. In 1954, a man arrived at an airport and had a passport issued by the country of Torrid, which does not exist. Police locked him in a high secure room and he vanished. There are computers for the Amish, which have no internet, videos, or music. There are organizations that manipulate the stock market, spending just a few months in Antarctica can shrink your brain. There's a lot more, like for part 7. These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. Sometimes you laugh, talk, and cry in sleep. It's often a spirit sitting beside you in bed. You are more likely to be bitten by someone in New York than to be bitten by a shark. A human head remains conscious for 20 seconds after being decapitated. If you search up this number on Google, you'll find people with their heads in fridges. Gelatin is made out of bones. That's right. The melted marshmallow in your hot chocolate is melted animal bone. It's good stuff. You have no way of really knowing if everyone experiences reality and consciousness the same way you do. If a panda finds a fresh carcass, they'll eat it. And last but not least, your phone is likely spying on you right now as you're watching this. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 8. These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. An average human walks past 36 murderers in their lifetime. There's future biotech technology when injected into prisoners. It makes them feel they served a 1,000-year sentence in a matter of 8 hours. The blue whale ejaculates over 40 gallons of sperm when mating. Only 10% enters the female. And you always wonder why the sea tasted salty. If you block your nose when you sneeze, you can rupture a blood vessel in your neck that can make you bleed to death. People that are left-handed die 3 years faster than people that are right-handed. Watching horror films can burn up to 200 calories. You may be living the last year of your life without being aware of it. You are always 6 minutes away from death. Breathing just resets the clock. There's a lot more, like for part 9. These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. If you smell burnt toast and there's nothing actually burning, you are most probably having a stroke. If you have 5 brothers, one of you will go to 5 funerals, while another won't see even one. If you shiver randomly, that means a ghost passed near or through you. There are 2 days that don't last 24 hours. The one of your birth and the one of your death. In the original Little Red Riding Hood, the wolf forced her to eat her grandma. You've never actually seen your face, only photos and reflections. People who fall in love lose an average of 2 friends each. By the time you reach the age of 18, on average, you have 3,300 weekends left in your life. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 11. These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. There are thousands of old diseases frozen in the glaciers of the world, and global warming will eventually release them all. If a person dies in their costume at Disney, like Mickey Mouse, they have to be sat down on a bench so it looks like they're resting. Climate change is making spiders bigger. Some female spiders allow their young to eat them alive. Tooth in the eye surgery is when surgeons put a tooth in a blind person's eye to restore their sight. It was pioneered in the 1960s, and it actually works, and it's still being done today. The chances of a successful CPR outside of a hospital is only 7%. Cell phones are 10 times dirtier than a toilet seat. When you suddenly wake up during the night without any reason, there was someone or something staring at you. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 12. These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. 41% of Americans go into medical debt every year. No other developed country even has that concept. Most of the oxygen comes from the oceans, but people are busy talking about protecting trees and not the ocean. Dracula is based on a real person. Paris is romantic, right? What's more romantic than millions of human remains? The catacombs under Paris hold remains of roughly 60 million plague victims. Cockroaches can live without their heads for weeks. You can't die from old age, only from diseases brought on by age. Cannibals find the palm of the hand tastiest. Joke's on them. They don't know where my hand was this morning. Don't think you can outrun a crocodile. Crocodiles can gallop. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 13. These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. When Apollo 11 landed, it only had 20 seconds of remaining fuel. 4 months ago, a deceased rapper by the name Gunu had his corpse on stage while fans were partying around his body. The average person wastes 5 months of their lives waiting for red lights to turn green. Cruise ships have morgues, just in case someone, during the trip. If you have red eyes after swimming, it's not from chlorine. It's from the chlorine mixing with other people's urine. The furthest part of the ocean from land is Point Nemo. If you get stuck there, you're not coming back. Sunburn are your cells dying to avoid being cancerous. Most laugh tracks and shows are people from the 50s, which means you're hearing the laughter of dead people. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 14. These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. Vending machines are lethal. Yes, 13 people a year get killed from vending machines. Cats can sense when their owners are dying. Babies have more bones than adults. Spiders can survive in space. Your rectum is the first part of your body to develop, which means in one point of your life, you are just a... Several species of birds keep cool by defecating on themselves. Your stomach lining blushes when you do. On average, 173,000 people die per day. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 15. These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. Up until the 1980s, some doctors didn't believe newborns could feel pain. There is a book called The Wreck of the Titan. It predicted the Titanic ship tragedy, and it was written 14 years before it happened. Until the 20th century, human remains were used in the making of medicine. Climate change is making Middle Eastern countries colder and Western countries warmer. There is a church in Czech Republic called the Sedlik Ossuary, and it's decorated with human bones. Another fact about this church: it holds the skeletons of 70,000 people. 4-year-old Dorothy Good was the youngest person to be accused of witchcraft. While Ted Bundy was a psychology major at the University of Washington, he worked at Seattle's Suicide Hotline Crisis Center. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 16. These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. One of your photos that you have today will be used in your funeral. There are more slaves today than any other time in history. According to the founder of the Walk Free Foundation, there are 46 million slaves in the world today. Your eyes can still move after your death for 15 to 30 seconds. Watching TV for more than 2 hours a day can shorten your life expectancy by 1.4 years. In 1977, we received a radio signal from space that lasted 42 seconds. To this day, no one knows where that signal came from. A lit candle causes more than 15,000 house fires every year. Spider rain could happen at any moment above you. Bill Skarsgård, who played Pennywise in the 2017 version of It, was born in 1990, the year the original It was released. Yeah. So I found these conspiracy theories that are so believable they actually might be true. Part 3. Number 1. The 40,000-pound Navy bomb. The US Navy detonated this 40,000-pound bomb in the ocean in Florida. Many people were concerned because the Navy stated that this was simply just an exercise. But others were certain that they were trying to kill a deadly threat in the ocean that we should not know about. I don't know. This exercise was at the coast in Florida. Doesn't seem like the right place for training. Number 2. Tupac Shakur is not dead. Every time a celebrity dies, people will try as much as they can to debunk the news. But Tupac's story is a little different. None of the suspects behind his murder were sent to prison. Suge Knight was a suspect, but the prime suspect was Orlando Anderson. And he was accused 2 years later, but he was already shot and killed as well. So we never got a real confession. The craziest thing is that Tupac's closest friend, Snoop Dogg, has stated himself that Tupac is alive. And he says it in a way where he's not supposed to expose the truth.
When Pac died, if he really did, you know.
If he really died, what do you mean by that?
I mean, when I left that hospital, me and Pac was laughing and joking. So I don't see how somebody can turn from doing well to doing bad.
So you seriously think that he might still be alive?
I'm gonna tell you this, Pac, you never know. I'm gonna tell you this, Pac, you never know.
Oh, there you go.
Suge Knight, the man that was in the car with Tupac when he got shot, also said this.
This happened, that happened, right?
Right.
If you think about it, right?
Right.
Why you think nobody been arrested if they said they didn't want to kill Tupac?
Because they're snitching to the police, so they ain't
Not
gonna get
just to
arrested.
snitch and be smart, son. Because Tupac not
I ain't as smart as you showed me.
dead. Tupac not dead, He was dead. They'd be arresting those dudes for murder. You dead, He was dead. They'd be arresting those dudes for murder. You know he was somewhere smoking a Cuban cigar.
I don't know what the truth is, but if Tupac is alive, I think the whole world needs him back. You are a slave. Let me explain why. We are being controlled in this world. Everything we do, every move we make is remotely controlled by these people. Every human is born with the pineal gland. The pineal gland is known as the third eye or the sixth sense. It enhances your spiritual senses. It makes you analyze information faster. It makes you take the right decisions. It makes you sleep better, and much more. These people don't want your pineal gland to be activated because you become smarter and stronger. They deactivate your pineal gland using fluoride. They add fluoride in everyday necessities we consume. Drinking water has fluoride, and it's been proven that fluoride is cancerous. What is the first thing you do in the morning? Brush your teeth. Toothpaste contains fluoride. We are constantly shutting down this gland. Without this gland, we are more prone to weakness, staying up late, depression, and anger. Good news though, fluoride-free products exist. On the 29th of September 2016, this child named Insia was violently kidnapped in Amsterdam, and she was smuggled to Mumbai, India without her passport. 3 men brutally took this girl away, and the man behind this plot is the mother's ex-husband. This man was not arrested in India, but they refused to give the girl an Indian passport. No mother nor her child deserved to go through such tragedy. The government of the Netherlands has sentenced this man to 9 years in prison, but till this day, she's held captive with that man in India. This beautiful little angel's human rights have been violated for almost 6 years. Please return this child back to her mother. These are the most haunted places in South Africa. Starting at number 4, the Tokai Manor House. Tokai Manor House was built in 1795. In 1990, the owner of the house, Frederick Eckstein, was challenged to ride the horse in the living room. He accepted the challenge. While doing the challenge, the horse collapsed down the balcony, and both the horse and the young man did not survive this strange event. To this day, people who visited the house report that there are strange noises of laughter echoing in the manor. There have also been unrealistic images of a man riding on a horseback galloping around the residence. Number 3. Magisfontein Haunted Hotel. This is South Africa's most haunted hotel, infested with demons. There are 2 main ghosts that haunt this place. One called Cathy, that usually stays in her bedroom, and one called Lucy. Every single person who has been inside this place heard at least one of them. Well, to me, Cathy and Lucy are afrits, nothing to be messed with. Number 2, the Kimberley Africana Library. This place is so messed up. Librarians say that if you request a book, a ghost would knock it down a shelf onto the floor for you. No thank you, Habibi. You stay where you are. I can get the book myself. And finally, number 1, the Castle of Good Hope. After reading a lot about this place, I don't think there is any good hope. Centuries of violence in the Cape of Good Hope Castle have left the legacy of disturbed spirits. There have been sightings of 2-meter-long jinns in this place, and rumors from several visitors that they have witnessed a large black dog. Also, when the bell tower is empty, the bell rings on its own sometimes. This place is open for guests. However, no one is recommended to visit this place after sunset. You tell me, what country should I do next? So I found these conspiracy theories that are so believable they actually might be true. Part 2. Number 1. An unknown super predator in the ocean. There was a 3-meter-long great white shark that was tagged. 2 hours later, a fast-paced dive was recorded, and it was too deep for great whites. There was a temperature shift that went from 46 Fahrenheit to 78. That is a temperature that can only be achieved inside the belly of another living animal. Now, we all know that killer sharks kill sharks, orcas. But let's not forget that orcas are technically whales. They breathe air. They don't go that deep into the ocean. Number 2, The Simpsons 9/11 attack prediction. In 1997, The Simpsons released this episode predicting a 9/11 event at the World Trade Center in New York. When they reached, there were Jews outside staring at the towers waiting for something to occur. This was released 4 years before the actual incident. No comment. Number 3, Courage, the Cowardly Dog. Muriel and Eustace were turned into puppets at the end of the first season. He had full control over his owners, and all the other episodes were completely the dog's imagination. My childhood just got destroyed. This one shocked me the most. Number 4, Amber Heard's lawyer. In the 2013 film premiere of The Long Ranger, there was a fan holding a camera hoping to get a picture with the star himself. So the theory is she was in on it the whole time. She's obsessed with Johnny. This is dangerous. What's the creepiest conspiracy theory that you heard of? These are the most haunted places in Afghanistan. A lot of you have requested Afghanistan, so here you go. Starting at number 3, Forward Operation Base Salerno and the city of Khost. The base's location lends itself to many ghost stories already. There is an ancient Afghan graveyard on its outskirts. This base is guarded by 2 watchtowers. The Marines there always refuse to return back to the towers at night. Every Marine that has been in that tower heard footsteps of a little child behind him and a voice of a little girl speaking to him. Other troops have heckled the Marines until the child came to visit them at night watch. It's all fun and games until the spirits show up. Number 2, the haunted military observation post in Helmand province. In this observation post, there are many people that are buried right under the rock after a missile attack. And since then, this area was always haunted. American soldiers described seeing strange lights, hearing strange static on the radio, seeing sudden temperature swings from hot to freezing, hearing voices in the night, and having a creepy, uneasy feeling. Several Marines posted there said someone or something was keeping an eye on them. Several people also said they heard screaming in the darkness. I'm assuming jinns don't really enjoy the company of American soldiers. And finally, number 1, the village of Najiban in Kandahar province. This small village is very well known for its unusual stories. This place is not only haunted, there is something more sinister. There have been troops in this village that murdered innocent civilians for no reason at all. When they were captured and asked, they don't remember what they did. New people that spend a certain amount of time in this village lose consciousness and go insane, to the point where they get possessed and commit horrible things. It's safe to say that the village of Najiban isn't a good option for a holiday. You tell me, what country should I do next? These are the most haunted places in Pakistan. Starting at number 4, Shah Allah Dita Caves in Islamabad. This famous tourist spot in Islamabad is advised to only be visited at daytime. In Islam, caves are known to be homes for jinns. Visitors have reported hearing shrill noises from within these caves, and the locals don't usually go anywhere near them. Number 3, Sheikhapura Fort in Lahore. Sheikhapura Fort is a historical fort located in the district of Lahore. The fort is currently in awful shape, and no one is willing to restore the site. But anyone who dares to go near the fort returns with fear and horror. It is said that the last queen that resided in the fort died there, and it has since been haunted. Number 2, Mohatta Palace in Karachi. This palace is ranked as the most haunted historical landmark in Pakistan. Today, this palace serves as a museum. The guards and the workers in this palace have experienced dreadful activities. They would see artifacts moving from their place. They would hear noises of people having a party inside. and they would be physically touched by unseen beings. Let alone, the staff always warn visitors not to come alone if they want to avoid an unwanted encounter. And finally, number 1, Karsaz Road in Karachi. The Bride of Karsaz is a horrific tale about a newlywed couple that died in a car crash on Karsaz Road. Since then, there have been several sightings of a bride dressed in red that lingers around the road. But it gets even more sinister. Several people have reported that a bride stands on the side of the road at night, signaling late-night travelers for help. Once they stop, the bride's face turns into something unearthly, almost like a decomposing body, and she chases them down. Eyewitnesses say that they were chased by the bride, with her running as fast as their cars. It's safe to say that Karsaz Road isn't the most welcoming place in Pakistan. You tell me, what country should I do next? These are the most haunted places in the Philippines. Before I start listing them down, you do need to know that for all paranormal investigators, the country of Philippines is on their to-do list, as it's known worldwide for its haunted destinations. Starting at number 4, Fort Santiago, Intramuros in Manila. The walls of Intramuros turn into something terrifying, reminding you of the dark Spanish era. Thousands of civilians and soldiers were tortured and killed in Fort Santiago during World War II. It may be a hot tourist spot, but at night, the strange noises that are heard in this fort tends to keep visitors and tourists away. Number 3, Clark Air Base Hospital in Pampanga. This abandoned building used to be a military hospital during World War II and the Vietnam War. Paranormal investigators have confirmed that demons have conquered this property. It is commonly visited by YouTubers, but things always go wrong. The jinns that are specifically in this hospital are a little more protective towards their home. Number 2, Manila Film Center, Pasay City. This building is potentially one of Asia's most haunted destinations. When a building is haunted in the United States, you will hear noises. But when a building is haunted in the Philippines, it is a whole nother level. This film center was abandoned in the 80s after it collapsed during construction. It killed all the workers and none of their bodies were retrieved. And ever since, visitors were always warned to stay out of this building. The bad energy in this place spiritually drains you. And finally, number 1, Diplomat Hotel in Baguio City. Baguio City is ranked as the world's most haunted city as a whole. The Diplomat Hotel goes way back to 1911. No priests were able to cleanse this place. After many deaths inside this hotel, the business ceased its operations in 1987. Many paranormal investigators from around the world swore that they would never visit this building again. The Philippines is a beautiful country, but it is well known for its horrifying stories. You tell me, what country should I do next? There is a website called the Human Meat Project that is legally online, and this website, well, as per their statements, are legally selling human meat. This is their motto: one body can feed up to 40 people. They give you the choice to donate yourself to feed 40 people. What can you donate? Well, pretty much your whole body, including organs. And if you don't want to donate yourself, you can pick certain body parts and or certain organs. For example, one kidney or half a lung. You can choose as many or as few organs as you wish. There is an end date for donors. Donors can choose a date they want to be harvested. This is messed up. Who can donate? Any healthy living human can donate their body for consumption regardless of age. Also, apparently, every human donor will be medically evaluated to avoid the spread of contagious diseases. So you guys can chop me up in pieces and feed me to the poor, but you don't want any of them to get sick. Check out what they got in store at the moment. We got a 37-year-old male, white, from Netherlands. He's donating his ribs. Upper arm from a 44-year-old male, brain from female, Ecuador, and shoulder from a 20-year-old female from Indonesia. This is by far the scariest website I have ever come across. This is where the plot twist is. This is what it says in terms and condition, how it works. This is purely a conceptual art project and will not be acted out in real life. Now, this website has been debunked, but a lot of people still don't buy the story. The terms and conditions could very well be a disguise or a cover-up to keep this website legally on the surf web. I'm not buying it. You guys tell me, what do you think? True story. I met a woman, very rich. She was wearing jewelry and brands from head to toe. So I asked her, "What's your secret? What'd you do?" She said, "I'm a saver, not a spender." Okay, what does that mean? She said, "Let's assume I get minimum wage." What's minimum wage nowadays? I'm like, I don't know, $20 a day, maybe. She said, "I'm going to save up 10% of what I get paid a month in a savings account. So I'm going to save $2 every day." I said, "Okay, but that's $730 a year. What am I going to do with $700? She said, No. For 20 years, saving that amount, you will make $14,600. I said, "Miss, I'm not trying to burst your bubble, but in 20 years' time, the $14,600 is not going to be the same value as today. We're probably going to go through like 3 different recessions, inflations, deflations, war. And even if the value never changed, what am I going to do with $14,000? She said, "Start a business." "What kind of business? A candy shop?" She said, "Okay, tell me, what's your secret?" I said, "I'm going to do exactly what you planned to do. I'm going to save $2 every day. After year 1, I will purchase a bond. Let's assume the yield was 4%. After every year, I will purchase a bond with the exact same rate and still save the $2 a day every year. And I will add that $730 a year on top of the capital. And instead of 20 years, I will make $14,600 in just 15 years. I just saved 5 years off your lifespan, helping you reach the exact same goal. I know for a fact you didn't save $2 a day, and you have 5 Rolls Royces parked outside your mansion. So what is your secret?" She said, "I grew up in a very poor village in South America. I met a very rich guy from Manchester that came on a tourist trip. One thing led to another, and we got married." So you're married to a rich guy from Manchester. But how did you make your money though? Well, he died 6 years ago. Let me tell you how the feminist movement was the devil's plan. Modern-day feminism is a war against masculinity. Before this movement, a mass amount of women stayed at home while their husbands were at work. A lot of them had no jobs, so they couldn't be taxed. And the lords didn't like that. Rockefeller started funding feminist campaigns in the media. Modern feminists are convincing women that hookup culture and not shaving your armpits is liberation. Did you also know that this movement caused birth rates to plummet? We are not producing as many humans as we used to in the past. Emasculating a man does not make you a stronger woman. Sit down. You have been scammed by a man. The blue-haired feminists are contributing to one man's bank account. Facts. You have no idea about the devil behind your movement. And when someone speaks up, you just like he never existed. Wake up.
The last one completely blew my mind. There exists a plankton called dinoflagellates that if you consume it, will reverse your sense of hot and cold, and it can last for years. Scientists recently discovered some sharks living in an active volcano, but they can't get in to study them because, well, it's a volcano and it's too hot. In 1972, Vesna Vulovic fell out of a plane at 33,000 feet, no parachute, and lived. Sour Patch Kids and Swedish Fish are made by the same manufacturer, and in fact, the red Sour Patch Kid is literally a Swedish fish, except with sour sugar on it. The only people that know how to open the United States President's car doors are the Secret Service. And last but not least, 1 million people got together and decided to follow this clown on TikTok, and I've got to say, guys, I'm touched. I don't know what to say. Thank you so much for giving me this platform and for supporting me, and I love you guys. Thank you. The crazy part is, most people believe that these 3 things will actually save your life. They don't. Let's pretend you're at the ATM and this guy comes up behind you with a knife. He demands that you pull out as much money as you can and give it to him. But you remember that if you just punch in your ATM code backwards, it will still give you cash, and it will tell the authorities that you're being robbed. Except that's a myth. And all you end up doing is locking your account, making your attacker that much more suspicious of you. And so what does he do? He gets ready to actually attack you. But what do? You remember that you're a karate master, and so of course you're going to fight back. And so while you're getting in your stance, he just instantly stabs you. Because disarming someone with a knife is so hard to do, even if you're experienced at it. It's like trying to disarm a child who's got an uncapped marker without getting marker on you. It ain't going to happen. So now you're stabbed. But you remember, I can just yank this bad boy out and apply pressure and be fine. But that's not true. You bleed to death. These are pretty cool, but it's the plot twist at the end that's gonna get you. You wake up stranded on a deserted island, and now you need to go find drinkable water. So where are some places we can find that? You look around the island and you notice a whole bunch of coconut trees, and you think, well, people drink coconut water, I'll just drink that until I get rescued. Except if you only drink coconut water and don't supplement it with another water source, you will develop wicked diarrhea and will die of dehydration. So you start looking for an alternative source of water. And you remember from that documentary about cannibals that it is safe to drink your own blood. So you cut your arm open, you start drinking your own blood, but what you failed to understand is only in small doses is that okay. Beyond a couple teaspoons, and you'll develop something called hemochromatosis, which results in your lungs filling with fluid, and you basically drown from the inside out. And so realizing the state you're in, you forget that there's an animal on the island that can smell your blood. And it's a land shark. And he rips you to shreds. Crazy part is, most people believe that these 3 things will actually save your life. They don't. Let's pretend you get stuck in a blizzard on a mountain, and you need to stay warm. So how are you going to do that? You remember hearing somewhere that alcohol is supposed to keep you warm. So you whip out your flask, you take a swig, and sure enough, you feel warm already. You feel flush in the face. But it's an illusion, because what happens is alcohol, it increases blood flow to the skin and away from your core. So it plummets your core temperature, increasing the odds that you'll get hypothermia and die. So you stop drinking booze and you head off for a cave you see in the distance. Once you get inside the cave, you remember that you know how to make a fire. And so you do. Except the problem with fires inside of caves is it starts to expand the rock above you, causing it to crack and eventually caving in on you. So you narrowly escape the cave-in, only to hear something in the background. A grizzly bear was in the cave with you, and now it's charging out to avoid the cave-in. But you remember, humans can outrun bears, and you start taking off thinking, dumb bear, and it just catches you. Crazy part is, most people believe that these 3 things will actually save your life. They don't. Let's pretend you're lost in the desert, and you need water, and you don't have any. So where are some places you can get water? One commonly held terrible piece of advice is to drink your own pee, because it's mostly made up of water, except there's 5% of that that's all made up of just waste from your body, and even though the urine might keep you alive a little bit longer, you'll ultimately die of kidney failure. So you don't drink your own pee. Instead, you head over to some cactus you see nearby because you remember reading or hearing in school that you can drink the water inside of cactus. Except, unless it's one really specific kind of cactus, you'll be drinking lots of alkaloids and chemicals that will make you viciously ill, and you'll start vomiting and you'll have diarrhea and you'll die from dehydration much faster. So as you're sitting there wondering what you're going to do next, a venomous snake bites you. And so you instinctively start sucking on the bite to remove the poison, but you can't because it goes right in your bloodstream, and all you'll do is die much faster from infection.
My father owns a small delivery service that operates out of Farmington, New Mexico. We mostly deliver small packages out to the middle of nowhere that are too much of a hassle for the larger delivery companies to bother with. My dad is the only employee, and we have a few pickup trucks and a trailer. One day, we get a delivery out to Window Rock, Arizona, on the Navajo reservation about 2 hours from Farmington. My dad gets the call for the job while he is chilling with his Navajo friend, Travis, and his girlfriend. Travis mentions how he's got family in Window Rock that he hasn't seen in ages and recommends they go with him. I was about 6 or 7 at the time, and it was the summertime, so Dad decides we'll go down together. He can do his...
Most people believe these 3 things will save your life. They don't. Let's pretend that you're on vacation with some friends in this cabin, and you hear on the news that there's actually a killer on the loose in the woods surrounding your cabin. What do? Instinctively, you're going to want to ditch your friends and just start running into the woods. No shoes, no weapons, no cell phone, no sense of where you're going. But that's actually a terrible idea because the killer is in the woods, and you'd be putting yourself more in harm's way, not less. So you decide to stay put, and then you remember that your friend drove you all to the cabin in their brand new Lamborghini that was working like 5 minutes ago. So why can't you just pile into that and drive away to safety? The problem with that is anytime you're in a cabin in the woods and there's a killer on the loose around your cabin, even if it's a brand new car, it's not going to start. So don't even go out and try it. You're just sitting in the cabin doing nothing when all of a sudden you feel like someone could be watching you and you want to turn around and make sure no one is. Don't turn around because if you do, the killer will magically appear behind you. The only one you might accidentally do is number 14. 125,000 pieces of tuna sushi, 11,000 oranges, 500 teaspoons of sugar, 400 bananas, 130 teaspoons of chili powder, 85 chocolate bars, 70 cups of coffee, 48 teaspoons of salt, 37 and a half tubes of toothpaste, 18 apples worth of seeds, it's just the seeds, 5.1 pounds of spinach, 2 whole cows worth of beef, 1.5 gallons of water, 2 cherry pits if you chew it. And of course, if you eat 1 polar bear liver, that'll get you. I might eat the first 2, I would never eat the last 2. This is pufferfish and it's a Japanese delicacy. It's also extremely poisonous, so much so that it takes 2 years of training before you're allowed to serve this stuff. Because 1 pinhead of the neurotoxin found in these things can kill 30 humans and there's no antidote. Ackee is the national fruit of Jamaica, and it can only be eaten totally ripe. If you eat it unripe, or if you eat these black seeds, you develop something called Jamaican vomiting sickness, and it can kill you. This is fried monkey brain, and it's served primarily in Asia. And somewhat ironically, if you eat this stuff, you run the risk of developing something called Creutzfeldt-Jakob's disease, which is like mad cow disease, and it drills little holes in your brain and ultimately kills you. And last but not least, you have blood clams, which are popular in Southeast Asia. They can cause hepatitis, dysentery, and typhoid. And roughly 15% of people that eat these things will be infected. The crazy part is, most people believe that these 3 things will save your life. They don't. Let's pretend you've just moved into your brand new house and you hear some strange noises coming from the basement. Although it may seem really appealing to want to go downstairs and investigate your basement, it's a terrible idea because there's going to be a demon down there. But you decide you still want to go down, and so of course, what's down there? A demon. And as soon as you reach the base of the stairs, they grab you, they start throwing you against the wall, you manage to scramble back upstairs and slam the door behind you, narrowly escaping death. At this point, most people believe that the right thing to do in this situation is to get your Ouija board out and try to make contact with your demon to maybe convince them not to harass you. But demons don't respond well to that, and typically it only incites them to do more damage to you and your family. You play with a Ouija board anyways, you make contact with your demon, and before long somebody's possessed, and your demon's charging out after you. You take off running, but then you remember that if you just forget how to run, no demon can catch you. Except that's not true. They will catch you. Most people will... I can't even do this. Most people believe these 3 things will save your life. They don't. You're watching TV late at night and an urgent news bulletin comes on warning you there's been a zombie outbreak. You look out your window and sure enough, there's a zombie. What do? Your instincts are going to tell you to start sprinting around your house, turning on lights, smashing glassware, screeching like an owl, but you really shouldn't do that because you'll be alerting the zombie to your location, not repelling it. So instead, you decide to make a run for town. On your way, you see a group of people blazing down the road, and you wonder if you should flag them down, try to get some help. But you shouldn't, because even though this outbreak is only 5 minutes old, everybody in the world who's not a zombie has already joined an evil biker gang, and they just want to murder you. You take off running in order to avoid the biker gang, and you reach a clearing in the woods, where you run into your obviously infected best friend Karen, and you go up to give her a big hug because now you're saved. Except you're not, because Karen's a zombie, and Karen just kills you.
As many of you might already know, many Navajo people, including my own family, are very reluctant to speak about skinwalkers because it is believed to attract their attention. Well, I, however, grew up away from the Navajo Nation and was very naive about the subject. And when it came to skinwalkers, I was an absolute skeptic. My mom used to tell a story of how back in the 80s, when she lived with her siblings and my grandparents, still in Shiprock, but the southern outskirts, about how she and my aunt saw a skinwalker just outside their driveway under a street light. She described it as a black dog with dirty fur, a twisted noodle-like front leg, and these unnatural eyes with a soft burnt orange glow. Me, being my own close-minded self, doubted every word. But I never said my doubts out loud. But these doubts totally changed last year when I went to my grandparents' house last October. Me and my family had just finished going to the carnival at the Navajo Nation Fair and called it a night. The house was close enough where we could walk home in just 10 minutes. So we did. When we got there, it was about 9 at night, where we stayed up until about 2 a.m. catching up about family affairs and the local news. It was at that time that I decided to open up my mouth and find out by asking the question, "Hey everyone, are skinwalkers real?" "Guys," I asked. "You shouldn't be asking about that," my grandma said with almost a disturbed yell in her voice. So she and my grandfather both decided to go to bed. After being scolded by my mom, one of my aunts chimes in with a very cautious tone and says, "They are real, alright. I had a few screaming outside my trailer in Farmington just a few nights ago. And your cousin had nightmares the whole night and woke up crying that morning." Not wanting to push the discomfort any further, we all decided to go to bed. Now the trailer home is pretty old, and it was a really nice night. So we slept with the windows open, with screens to prevent bugs coming in. Everyone had drifted off to sleep, except me, because my mind was still going on a million miles and wondered if I ever encountered one. As a kid, I was told it's taboo to think about skinwalkers because it can still call their attention. And that's when it totally hit the fan. Just as I was settling and finally getting relaxed to sleep, I started to hear something moving outside. I get up from the couch and start wandering over to the kitchen window. In the trailer, all of the rooms have the lights out, so the only visible light that can be seen is from the porch light out front. I was thankful for this because I told myself if it was really a skinwalker outside, then hopefully it wouldn't notice me seeing it. So I muster up the courage and take a quick scan of outside. From the porch light, all I can see is the dusty ground and the vehicles that my family drove along, with some old metal trash cans that stood beside the road. Looking for about a good 5 seconds, I wasn't able to see anything, so I was getting ready to turn around and walk back to bed, thinking it was just a stray cat or something. I must have only taken 2 steps when I hear what sounds like a distorted scream coming from outside, definitely close by. With fear rising, I look outside again, and there I see it. A coyote-like figure was staring at me from behind the cars, just outside of the reach of the porch light. Only it looked awfully wrong and gave off an evil vibe just from seeing it. It was gray, with hair and a horrific orange-red soft glow coming from its eyes. I noped the hell out and ran back to the bedroom. It was at this moment I began to notice an awful stench in the air that smelled like rotting meat. I then decided to wake up my mom, who was like, "It's almost 3 a.m. What do you want?" I immediately began in a shaken voice, "There's something scary outside." Then she said, "Ugh, it's just a stray animal or something. It's the res. Animals wander around here all the time at night." She obviously wasn't getting the drift of what I was saying, so I screamed, "There's some Blair Witch Project going on outside, Ma." That got her attention. "What the hell are you talking about?" she said. Then we heard it. The thing outside started making more of its dreadful like screams and started what sounded like trashing outside on the ground. "Do you hear that? That's what I'm referring to." So both her and I got back up, looked outside the window, and the coyote thing was making its way to the door. It walked with an odd limp and dragged its back right leg as if it had been handicapped. We could hear it start to scratch against the door and make this old muffled moaning sound. My mom went and got my dad, and they both started to shout in Navajo all sorts of words, telling the thing to go away and saying it's not welcome here. All this commotion was enough to get the rest of the trailer up as they came out into the hallway. The only thing my mom did was turn to them and said, "Skinwalker," while proceeding to point to the door. Apparently, they already knew exactly what to do, as my grandfather got out a handgun from a drawer and a bag of ashes. He coated a few bullets and loaded them into the gun and went straight to the door. Yelling out more Navajo that was too fast for me to comprehend, he swung open the door and fired twice. Nothing. The thing managed to escape before my grandpa could put a bullet in it. "That's the fastest one I ever seen," said my grandpa. "What if it comes back tomorrow? And it saw us. It looked at us. It looked at all of us. Does that mean that we're targets now?" Afterwards, my grandparents calmed everyone down, myself included, saying we will be fine, and we all went to bed around 3-ish. The morning comes, and my grandparents call one of their neighbors and explain to them what happened. Apparently, one of them was a medicine man who used to partake in Navajo ceremonies that were used for healing and curing sickness. He came over to bless each family member and the grounds outside. He can do his delivery really quick. Then while Travis sees his family, we can go check out the window rock. Big rock face with a large hole in it that goes to the other side. Pretty cool. We had to convoy in separate trucks since my dad's was loaded down with freight. We decided to bring along some walkie-talkies so we could communicate with one another. We spend our time in Window Rock. Everything is generally uneventful, and we start heading home along the old highway with my dad and I in front, Travis and his girlfriend in their truck behind us. I don't remember most of the Window Rock trip, but this next part I will never forget. We're somewhere on the highway between Window Rock and Gallup, New Mexico. It had just rained earlier in the day, and the road was kind of slick, so we were taking it pretty slow. On the left of the highway, there is nothing but sandstone cliffs, and on the right, there is a huge field separated from the road by a small barbed wire fence. We crest the top of this hill, and down at the bottom of the hill, we see what appears to be a very large dog. sitting back on its haunches in the middle of the road, facing the cliffs. My dad calls over the radio. "Hey Trav, do you see that big dog?" Travis starts yelling back over the radio, "That's not a dog. Speed up right now and hit it." He sounds almost hysterical. He just keeps screaming, "Hit it! JJ, you have to hit it. Please, please, hit that fucking thing right now." So my dad starts to speed up, and as we get a bit closer, I can begin to see it a little more clearly. It's covered in this brown, matted hair that appears to have dry blood all over it. It's still facing the cliffs, but the moment our headlights hit it, it turns and looks at us. It turns and looks at us, and it has a face. I don't know how else to describe it, other than a mix between a bear and a human's face. It looks twisted and distorted and almost in pain. As we get closer to this thing, we start to realize it's actually fucking huge. Even though it was still sitting on its haunches, it is about shoulder height with the hood of the truck. We get literally inches from hitting it when it lets out this scream that sounds like someone screaming as their lungs were filling with water, and it leaps backwards towards the field, landing just on our side of the barbed wire fence. Then, with another leap, it was gone from sight. Travis comes over the radio again. "Holy keep driving. We gotta get out of here. We have to go faster." He kept repeating that last part. We have to get out of here, and we have to go faster. Pretty soon, we're speeding like crazy, and just as we start to come near the outskirts of Gallup, we get pulled over. Travis pulls his truck over with us. Naturally, this makes the cop, a Navajo man himself, very on edge, and he immediately is asking why Travis felt the need to pull over as well. Travis says, "We just saw a fucking skinwalker a few miles back and it's been following us." The officer immediately turns white, stammers something about a verbal warning, gets in his car and takes off. We do the same. We didn't see anything else that night, but when we got home, Travis refused to let us leave without taking some kind of Navajo totem thing that was supposed to keep it away. Anybody that has been on the Navajo reservation has either probably heard of some creepy things or have experienced pretty creepy things, namely skinwalkers. I have only seen one. Here's my story. I come from a small town in North Arizona that's sandwiched between the Paiute Reservation to the north and the U.S. largest Navajo reservation to the south. My high school being so small, a 1A high school that has, on average, 80 students enrolled every year, I always had to travel south about 5 to 10 hours one way to play another high school in any sport. This means that we travel a lot on the Navajo res, and we would also stay at hotels when we would head out to play and come home in the morning. But this trip was a little bit different. I remember the basketball coach saying that the school didn't have enough money to put up the teams in a hotel that trip, so we were going to be on the road for a total of about 12 hours. I was the only male senior to play basketball that season. We had just got done playing our game and headed home on our bus, Big Blue. We were headed out about 2 hours of driving before we had entered the res. By this time, everyone was asleep, with it being about 2 a.m. When we had crossed the res's border, I noticed the bus driver had sped up and was now going about 85 miles per hour. I thought this was a little weird because he never exceeded the speed limit, at least not in my high school career. For some reason, I couldn't fall asleep like the rest of my teammates, and I just sat at the back of the bus, staring out across the desert landscape that was lit up by the full moon As I looked out, I could see a figure running towards the bus. As I looked out, I could see a figure running towards the bus at an angle of pursuit and keeping up with the bus at 85 miles per hour. As the figure got closer, I saw that it was a humanoid form. As a matter of fact, it looked exactly like a human, only that the face was painted half black and half white with glowing eyes. Glowing eyes like a rabbit's eyes, reflecting light from a spotlight. My initial thought, it's a skinwalker. The skinwalker ran up to the edge of the road and just kept up pace with the bus, staring at me. After I made eye contact with the thing, I could not look away. It was as if something was holding my head and eyes in place. The skinwalker just smiled at me, this inhumane smile that went ear to ear, showing crooked, yellow pointed teeth. I felt like I was going to throw up, and I was panicking through the whole ordeal. The skinwalker started to crumple down onto all fours, still keeping up with the bus. I could see his bones crack and reform, hair starting to appear all over its body, and in about 3 seconds was now a coyote, and it ran off back into the desert out of view. As soon as it was gone, I ran to the onboard bathroom and puked a mixture of food and blood. I didn't want to tell anyone for fear that they would think I was crazy. I confided in my Navajo friend. She told me that I needed to see the chief, who also happened to be a friend of mine, and get a blessing. He just came up to me and mumbled something in Navajo while waving a feather scepter-like thing, turned around, got in his truck, and drove away. To this day, I haven't seen another skinwalker. It might be because I moved away from that town and rest, and if I do have to go south, I'll go around, way around.